amid the protests over the Agnipath scheme in several states. 7 states, we understand, have been put on high alert ahead of the Bharat Bandh call that's been given. The states that have been put on alert are Bihar, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Kerala. Reporting on these protests are Harsha, Sumi, Piyush as well as Amandeep. All of them joined us live this morning. Good morning to all of you. Harsha, to you first. We are given to understand that this Bharat Bandh call that has been given is something that has made security forces put themselves on high alert. Also, what we are understanding is that internet services could also perhaps be interrupted in several of those areas which are believed to be tense.
Exactly. Till now, the Section 144 has been imposed in several states where we saw violent protests from Bihar, Jharkhand, Patna, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Siliguri, Delhi, in fact, national capital. So we saw violent protests happening against this Agniveer scheme. And when the military head himself said that this Agniveer scheme won't be rolled out, then we saw that by some groups on Monday, Bharat Bandh was called. But yes, I would like to show you the visuals from the national capital because we see that security is on high alert. Behind me, you can see that security forces are on full alert here in the national capital. Major areas have been completely barricaded and sealed by security forces ahead of Bharat Bandh. As on Monday, there are some groups who have told that Bharat Bandh will be called, and huge protesters are coming here in the central area, in the vicinity of central areas. Therefore, security forces are on high alert. Section 144 has been imposed. But if we see in Bihar and Jharkhand and other states where we saw violent protests, there internet suspension can also happen. But yet now, suspension of internet in Jharkhand or in Bihar has yet not been announced by the administration. But yes, in the vicinity of the railway station, bus station and in the central places of Jharkhand and Bihar, huge security forces have also been deployed. One thing is very clear, which the Navy heads and the military heads have already cleared, that the protesters who will be involved in the violent protest against this Agniveer scheme won't have any place in the military organization, in any sort of military, be it Agniveer scheme or not be Agniveer scheme. Therefore, ahead of Bharat Bandh, everywhere Section 144 has been imposed and security is on high alert. Yes, back to studio.
All right, let me go across to Sumi now. Sumi, one of the things that have been hit hard is the railways, because we've seen several of those trains either being cancelled or damaged also to various trains that were standing. Give us a sense, what are you hearing from the Railway Ministry on this?
Yes, absolutely. 10 states have been affected by the Agnipath scheme and the protests that followed. And in fact, 400 trains have been torched and affected by this entire protesters and the demonstrators who have taken to the streets since June 14th after the entire scheme got introduced by the Defence Ministry and by our Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. In fact, the kind of protests, they were resorted to a lot of vandalism and arson. And in fact, yesterday, we heard the Lieutenant General Anil Puri in his special briefing to the media. He made it quite clear, a very stern message was given to all of those demonstrators that a pledge has to be taken by all of the demonstrators that they were not involved in any sort of vandalism when this entire protests are going on in the country. And in fact, a certificate also have to be given that they were not part of any of these protests. So these mandatory training has to be, these mandatory checks have to be given, and in fact, police verification will also happen. The kind of protest that we are witnessing, the vandalism that we are witnessing is very, very violent in nature, and which is why all of the tri-services chiefs have made that clear in their own words that no vandalism and arson and no demonstrators will be recruited in the Agnipath scheme. However, we're witnessing that 10 states have witnessed such violent protests in the last few days. 7 states have been put on high alert. In fact, in Haryana also Section 144 has been imposed. In Noida also Section 144 has been imposed. And in fact, 200 arrests have also been made after the protests affected the Yamuna Expressway. In fact, in the national capital also several deployment has taken place. In fact, the national capital has also been turned into a fortress just to keep the law and order intact. And this has to be done because the kind of protests that we are witnessing, they are very violent in nature, and the vandalism is also increasing, which is why the police personnel are also in high alert. And as Harsha was correctly pointing out, internet suspension might also be in the book.
All right, as also just to tell our viewers that the railways have cancelled about 229 89 trains and 254 passenger trains due to these protests. Let me go across to Chandigarh right now, where Amandeep is reporting from. Amandeep, we understand that several locations in Punjab and Haryana have been put on a high alert. RAF has also been deployed at several of those sensitive areas. Give us an update.
The point is that Punjab ADGP Law and Order has rolled out the directions to all the CPs and SSPs to put the city on high alert and keep their intelligence up, and in fact to maintain the law and order situation. The entire force is on ground in Punjab to maintain law and order situation, just because recent incident of Ludhiana railway station vandalization is an alert for Punjab, just because that was the first protest which turned to be very violent, and all of a sudden the protesters have gathered to vandalize the railway station of Ludhiana, and that situation put the entire state on high alert. That is the reason all the SSPs, entire force, RAF, commandos, they all are on the roads to maintain the law and order situation, and in fact no person is allowed to gather, not more than 4 persons in the city. And in fact the police is also verifying through the intelligence inputs that is there any kind of gathering or not. And even the similar situation is also in Haryana, just because there are certain cities which are very much affected in Haryana, especially the bordering cities of Delhi, and even section 144 has been imposed. Internet has been already suspended in that cities, and in fact the entire state is already on alert so that the law and order should be maintained.
Okay.
And even Home Department has also rolled out the directions that nobody will be spared. Whosoever is indulging into the violent activities during the protest, peaceful protest is all allowed in the state of Haryana, but they're damaging the public property, they have to pay for it.
All right. Stay with us. I'm going to go across now to Piyush, who's reporting from New Delhi. I think, Piyush, give us a sense of the kind of measures that have been put in place across all states. And also, we are given to understand that as far as the armed forces is concerned, they've put in place, they say that this is not going to be ruled back, and hence the protests now need to stop.
As you had already seen yesterday, that Lieutenant General Puri had tried to allay fears of what exactly were the reasons of putting Agnipath in place. Now, despite this, we have seen a lot of protests being taken place, because of which the administration now has started taking measures to prevent further violence. We have now seen that all the WhatsApp social groups, that were trying to cause violence is now being banned. Moreover, in states, where a lot of violence had taken place, a lot of security is being put in place, and all the lumpen elements, that are trying to put troubles in place are being taken care of. So you can see that now security agencies are making sure that no more troubles take place. Back to you, Nupur.
All right. So as our reporters on the ground are pointing out, measures put in place. There's a Bharat Bandh call that's been given. 7 states on high alert. Those, of course, do include some parts of... all right. I'm going to try some parts of Bihar, of course, as well as Haryana on high alert. I'm going to go across to Satyavijay right now. He's giving us the latest from Bhopal. Satyavijay, good morning. Tell us about the measures that have been put in place as far as Madhya Pradesh is concerned. Now, the army does draw a large number of its cadres from Madhya Pradesh. So we've been seeing protests there as well. Satyavijay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was asking you, in terms of putting in place measures for the Bharat Bandh, give us a sense of what's happening in Madhya Pradesh, particularly Bhopal.
जी देखिए, मैं आपको आज की स्थिति की अपडेट्स से अवगत कराऊं तो मध्य प्रदेश और छत्तीसगढ़ दोनों जगह भी बंद को लेकर केंद्रीय गृह मंत्रालय ने इनपुट दिए थे। इसके बाद से मध्य प्रदेश पुलिस और छत्तीसगढ़ पुलिस भी अलर्ट पर है। कल से ही फोर्स डिप्लॉयमेंट के लिए प्लानिंग कर ली गई थी। आज सुबह से मध्य प्रदेश और खासकर राजधानी भोपाल में और वो इलाके जो उत्तर प्रदेश बॉर्डर से सटे हुए हैं, जो वो जिले जो उत्तर प्रदेश बॉर्डर से सटे हुए हैं, इन सभी जगह एक्स्ट्रा पुलिस फोर्स लगाया गया और ये पुलिस
All right, that's a very poor link that we have with Satya Vijay. We're going to fix that and come back to him. But just to tell our viewers that 7 states have been put on high alert. There is a Bharat Bandh call that's been given. There are various political groups which are supporting these protests, but the government on its part says that if you want to protest, you can protest peacefully, but arson will not be allowed. I think we've got Satya Vijay back here. Satya Vijay, you were giving us an update of the measures that have been put in place in Bhopal. Please continue.
जी हाँ, देखिए, मैंने जैसा कि बताया कि केंद्रीय गृह मंत्रालय की तरफ से मध्य प्रदेश पुलिस को, छत्तीसगढ़ पुलिस को जो पीएचक्यू होते हैं वहां पर इनपुट्स मिले थे और इनपुट्स के बाद मध्य प्रदेश पुलिस ने एक्स्ट्रा सतर्कता बरती हुई है, खासकर राजधानी भोपाल और वो इलाके मध्य प्रदेश के जो उत्तर प्रदेश बॉर्डर से सटे हुए हैं, इन सभी जगहों पर रेलवे स्टेशन, बस स्टैंड और वो जगह जहां पर की ज्यादा भीड़भाड़ होती है, जहां पर ज्यादा यूथ जुटते हैं और कोचिंग सेंटर्स जहां पर की बच्चे कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम की तैयारी करने आते हैं, उन सभी जगह एक्स्ट्रा पुलिस फोर्स डिप्लॉय कर दिया गया है। भोपाल रेलवे स्टेशन पर भी सैकड़ों की तादाद में पुलिस फोर्स को डिप्लॉय किया है, क्योंकि जो अग्नि परीक्षा जो अग्निवीर हैं जो प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं सेना में, जो भर्ती के नाम पर उनका जो अपना प्रोटेस्ट है, उनकी ये मांग है कि इसमें 4 साल नहीं बाकी एक्सटेंशन चीजों का होना चाहिए। इन सब चीजों को लेकर सबसे ज्यादा गुस्सा देखने को मिल रहा है वो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन पर देखने को मिल रहा है, रेलवे हो या बस सर्विस हो, इनको आग के हवाले किया जा रहा है। हालांकि मध्य प्रदेश में सिर्फ ग्वालियर और इंदौर 2 ऐसी जगह हैं जहां पर की छुटपुट घटनाएं हुई थी, जिसके बाद से कई लोगों की अरेस्टिंग भी हुई। कुछ कोचिंग संचालक जो ग्वालियर के थे जिन्होंने स्टूडेंट्स को भड़काया था, ऐसे मैसेज पोस्ट किए थे जिसकी वजह से स्टूडेंट सड़कों पर उतरे थे, उन कोचिंग संचालकों को भी अरेस्ट कर लिया है। लेकिन फिर भी एहतियात के तौर पर चूंकि केंद्रीय गृह मंत्रालय की तरफ से अलर्ट का इनपुट था, इसके चलते मध्य प्रदेश पुलिस पूरी तरह से तैयार है। छत्तीसगढ़ में भी ये कोशिश की जा रही कि किसी तरह का उपद्रव ना हो सके। जिस तरह की तस्वीरें बिहार में देखी गई हैं, वैसी तस्वीरें मध्य प्रदेश में देखने को ना मिले, इसके लिए पुलिस पूरी तरह से तैयारी कर रखी है।
All right. So what we are seeing, of course, is ahead of that Bharat Bandh call, ample security has been put in place. All of you, thank you for joining us this